Davey, mahalo. The news that Alaska Airlines is pursuing the purchase of Hawaiian Air came out of the blue. And joining us live this morning is Governor Josh Green to talk about that as well as some other things that have been going on. So good morning, Governor. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
As yesterday, when your office issued the statement regarding this merger, seemed a bit cautious. So what is it you're looking for as this merger hopes to happen within the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, I'm optimistic it will be a solid merger. Of course, as the governor, I want to make sure it helps our people. So I did get a briefing on Saturday from the CEOs of both Alaska and Hawaiian. They're working very closely together. We have to make sure that our routes all stay intact, that the cost of travel stays stable, and making sure, more than many things, that the neighbor islands are well served. But I have a good relationship with the CEO of both companies, and I think that over the next 12 to 18 months, as they get all the details ironed out, we'll be okay.
I know a big question we've gotten from a lot of people. We actually had someone call us this morning early, like overnight hours, asking about, what's going to happen with miles. I know you've probably racked up quite a few Hawaiian miles.
Yes, I have over 1 million miles. So it turns out that people will keep their miles. The miles program will apply to both what Alaska does and what Hawaiian does, which means that they're going to get more capacity. We are all going to get more capacity to use our miles on that whole Alaska network. So people should not worry about that.
And I know you just got back from Japan, and part of that trip was to promote tourism.
Yes.
Do we see this merger potentially impacting the future of tourism in the state?
In many ways, it's going to open up the Pacific even more to us. I think I'm going to have to continue to work with all the other airlines that go to Japan very robustly. Of course, Hawaiian does. This is important to us because we need more Japanese travelers coming here. We historically went to 1.5 million travelers. That was about 30% of all of our economic activity, but that's been off by about 45% since COVID. We want to see that boost back up. The expectation is that we'll get back to 85% over time. But yes, we're going to have a lot of robust travel between Japan and Hawaii, and I'm working on a travel corridor, so that people can get pre-clearance in Japan and come to Hawaii more seamlessly. That should take some of the North America market and plunk it down in Hawaii, because those travelers are very good for us.
I know this is the big story, of course, that's happened in the last 24 hours, but we are tomorrow, about nearly, well, not tomorrow, sorry, it's been about nearly 4 months since the fires on Maui. And I know that you tasked the AG with investigating the deadly fire. Now, some of the agencies involved in the response on Maui have yet to provide investigators with what's being asked for. So what's the status of that investigation, and when can we maybe expect those agencies to start providing that information so that we can all get that update?
Sure. So the reason I asked for an independent investigation is because I just want to know what the policy changes are that we need, so that we're safer, so that we know whether to put lines underground, so that we know how much monies and personnel to invest in areas that are dangerous, like Maui and Lahaina, but also Waikoloa on the Big Island, other places where there are fires. I do have to be a little careful here, because it's very important that I stay completely out of the Attorney General's way, and she has to work it out. She had those investigators interview me and the Lieutenant Governor and everyone as well, just to share what went on, what we knew, and how we know to improve things. She has been working with the county, and they're going to work out their differences, but I do understand they're getting a lot of information. The bottom line is we have to actually invest more resources in climate mitigation and fire prevention, and that's what you'll see at the legislature.
And so phase one of that investigation, do you have any idea of when the public could expect to have that information?
I know the Attorney General wants to have something toward the end of January at the latest, because the legislature is in session then, and that's when some of this information can be used for policy. I know that she's pushing very hard. I have to have her speak for herself, because it's really important that the Attorney General of all my cabinet members be independent.
And I know, of course, the Maui fire is probably one of the biggest stories to come out of Hawaii in our history. And tomorrow will mark 1 year since you've been in office. So in addition to the Maui fires, what else has occupied a lot of your time in this first year? What would you say your accomplishments have been, and what keeps you up at night?
So what keeps me up at night right now is how we get people housing on Maui. you're seeing our plan evolve, and what we hope to do, the mayor and I, we met with his advisory team, and I met with many of the victims' families on Friday, is we would like to acquire about 3,000 short-term units and put them into long-term rentals, which will share the cost with FEMA. Do that for 2 years so that people have housing. Meanwhile, build Ohana units on people's properties, and then develop, say, about 3 neighborhoods, whatever Maui and the people of Lahaina choose. That's the play, and I think that's what we have to do. That keeps me up at night. A lot has been done. We launched the housing initiative under emergency rules because I want to expedite housing for our local people. We have already authorized 10,800 units. That's public housing that's going to make a big difference. I cut $1 billion out of a budget that was just too swollen last year, and it turns out we needed that because we have hundreds of millions of dollars of cost at Maui. I'm going to keep all of our other priorities in place. We've begun to launch Kauhale, as you see. We'll aim towards 12 Kauhale by later this year. Later, that is in 2024. There's so many things to share. I hesitate to say that any of the jobs are done. They're not. But we have made big progress, for instance, on healthcare. We launched what we call the HELP program, which is loan forgiveness for doctors, nurses, psychologists, social workers. We already have over 1,000 applications. We only have a shortage of 2,000 providers. So that kind of solution goes into place. And then, of course, we secured better resources for our public school teachers. That was a top priority because we wanted to keep teachers here. Instead of having 1,200 openings, we down to like 400 or 500. So lots of things have been accomplished, but really I'm just thankful for the support the people of Hawaii have given me, and I'm thankful that we all kind of hang together because this has been, a very tough year because of the crisis on Maui.
And I'd say another big storyline we've been following prior to you becoming governor, but you were following it as lieutenant governor, now as governor, Red Hill.
Yes.
Another phase in the defuelment process starts today. Any updates that you know of? I
do. So again, thank you for mentioning that. So this we feel is a very good joint achievement between the community, the Navy, and our administration. So they're going to commence phase 2 of the gravity draining today, literally today. We're already done with 99.5%. Over the next couple weeks to mid-December, we will get down to 99.9% drained. And then we'll launch phase 3, which has been approved. And that will put us out into just next month. We should be able to finish this project off 6 months ahead of schedule and then close down Red Hill, or begin closing down Red Hill for good. So that was a commitment I made to the environmental community, but really to everyone, because we have to have clean water and no threat over our watershed. So we're trying to deliver on our values, protect our families, help kids, help our kupuna, but there's a lot of larger challenges that are going to take many years to achieve. That's the housing and homeless solutions. But this one was a good one, and I'm grateful to everybody to help us get Red Hill drained.
Oh, thank you for that update, Governor. That's a big one, of course, for all of you who were waiting to hear what's going to happen next. And this is another thing we have talked about before. Yes. We hear lots about people being priced out of paradise. Yes. We're seeing essentials like water bills, electricity bills continue to go up. How can people keep up, and how do we keep them here?
So this is the largest challenge we have. That's why I keep coming back to housing. And we have to approve tens of thousands of units of housing. Interestingly, the crisis on Maui may actually show us the way forward to get a lot more housing for our local people. One of the clear messages that has come to me from the Maui fire is that there are simply too many short-term rentals here in Hawaii that are not being converted to long-term rentals for our local people. I think you're going to see this week some action on Maui where taxes go up on short-term rentals and the long-term rentals get benefits. That should happen statewide. Remember, we have somewhere between 70,000 and 100,000 short-term rentals between the illegal and legal varieties. If all of those short-term rentals were converted, we wouldn't have a housing shortage. We'd actually be fine. And so I'll be talking about that quite a lot. We'll move some of these short-term rentals to long-term rentals, and then we'll build. That's number one. Number two, the water rates. I think it's too much. So I hope that when we get a settlement from the Navy, that the Board of Water Supply sued the Navy for $1.2 billion. I did confirm as I talked to Mr. Lau, who I have an incredible amount of respect for, when Ernie gets a settlement, and I'll push for that too, if we get a couple $100 million, that should then allow us to rethink how high the water rates have to go. And then finally, as I deal with the crisis on Maui, we have to determine what's in the best interest of the people as far as our energy partner. Because if we lose, say, HECO, or if we lose other energy partners, rates could go up. So everyone has to be held to account. They have to be fully accountable. We have to take care of those who lost property and loved ones. But we also have to look at the future. And I don't want to see energy rates go up like they did in California after their fire. So it turns out a lot of what I'm doing on affordability is a result of whether or not we can get housing, whether or not we can get a water settlement, whether or not we can manage the Maui wildfire and how it hit our energy grid. These are pretty big tasks. I've got a lot of great partners, and I'll just keep fighting every day to make sure this works for us.
Well, thank you, Governor, for spending part of your morning with us and answering all those questions for me.
You bet. Thank you.
We will be right back after a short break. We'll have another look at your weather and